This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Thursday, April 8th, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. Thank you so much for joining us. We begin with this. Most Americans disapprove of President Joe Biden's handling of the border crisis and immigration. That is according to a new poll. This coming as border agents struggle to keep up with the skyrocketing number of illegal crossings. CBN News senior correspondent Tara Mergener brings us the story from Rio Grande Valley in Texas.
Given what they see from a front row seat, many tell us they have no confidence the Biden administration will stop the humanitarian or national security crisis already out of control.
It's beyond, a border crisis.
And Myra Flores believes many South Texas voters, Republican and Democrat, are furious about it.
We're talking about child trafficking, and we're seeing that the cartel and smugglers are making billions. And this is the same organization that is terrorizing also Mexico. This doesn't benefit anyone.
During our 8 days to the Rio Grande Valley, we caught a close-up glimpse of what's troubling so many here. Waves of migrants dropped on U.S. soil each day by the smugglers and drug cartels. They pay thousands of dollars for what they believe is their only chance of opportunity and survival. Latest data from Customs and Border Protection shows some 171,000 migrants in March, 5 times more than just a year ago. This as White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki again downplays the situation here. The latest when asked about the possibility of terrorists sneaking into the country.
Encounters of known and suspected terrorists are very uncommon. As
the administration plays defense, this new poll shows 40% of Americans disapprove of Biden's response, while just 24% approve. Detention facilities continue to overflow. At this one in Donna, the numbers reportedly expanded 6-fold in a matter of days.
Every facility we have along the southwest border is over capacity right now.
Other critics like Raul Cruz, who live along the river, blame President Biden for rolling back Trump immigration policies he insists were working.
They're getting processed and then released. It's not due to Border Patrol's fault. They're out there doing their job. It's due to the new Biden administration's policy, the 100-day no deportation that's going on.
We're told it takes about 3 hours of paperwork for every migrant that comes through. As agents rush to quickly process it all, record numbers are being released without court dates that would require them to face a judge. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Border Patrol agents captured now viral heartbreaking footage of a little boy abandoned recently at the U.S.-Mexico perimeter. Speaking through tears, the little boy, suspected to be between the ages of 10 and 12 years old, basically said he'd been abandoned by the group he was traveling with. He told Univision he could end up stolen and kidnapped, and he was afraid. Texas Border Patrol Sector Chief Gloria Chavez also told Univision all parents considering sending their children unaccompanied to the border should reconsider because it is very dangerous. West Virginia Democrat Senator Joe Manchin says there is no circumstance in which he would vote to get rid of the filibuster. Manchin made the statement in a Washington Post op-ed. It has been an ongoing debate in the Senate in recent days, something opponents of the idea says goes against key elements of how bills are handled in the U.S. Senate. Manchin also said he'd oppose using the budget reconciliation process to bypass a filibuster over President Biden's infrastructure spending bill. President Biden wants everyone in America who can get the COVID-19 vaccine to get it. His administration says it will be available to all later this month. The timing of the move comes even as the CDC now says the more deadly and contagious UK variant is the most common strain in the United States. CBN's Abigail Robertson reports.
While new variants of COVID-19 are rapidly spreading across the country, the good news is the vaccines seem to be effective against them. Still, President Biden warns we're in a race against time.
We're still in a life and death race against this virus.
Biden hopes we'll see a return to normal by the 4th of July, but encourages Americans to take precautions until then.
Even moving at the record speed we're moving at, we're not even halfway through vaccinating over 300 million Americans. This is going to take time.
44% of new COVID cases are coming from just 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan.
We're seeing the numbers go up, and we're still seeing that sick patient population coming in. We can definitely feel that there is an uptick, for the sick patient coming in.
Michigan healthcare workers say they're concerned by the ages of the patients being hospitalized.
We're seeing a lot more younger adults, middle-aged adults being affected, getting sick and coming in.
The CDC director warns daycare centers and youth sports are leading to a rise in cases amongst youth.
65,000 cases, that's 65,000 opportunities for mutations to occur, for more variants to spread.
But Dr. Anthony Fauci says there is good news on the efficacy of the vaccines.
Antibodies delivered by vaccination persist at least through 6 months, and likely from the shape of the curve well beyond that.
And he assures Americans the end will come.
We'll know it when we see it. It'll be obvious as the numbers come down rather dramatically. And when they do, we're going to wind up getting really stepwise much, much more towards what we consider approaching a degree of normality, which everyone really quite dramatically notices it. It's on the way. Hang in there.
Dr. Fauci also says the federal government will not require American citizens to carry vaccine passports, although he foresees some businesses implementing their own rules requiring them. Reporting from Virginia, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Police found a suspect after an hours-long search for the attacker in a Rock Hill, South Carolina mass shooting. It happened Wednesday evening. It left 5 people dead, including a well-known doctor, his wife, and their children who were staying with him at the time. The murders are still under investigation, and police have not released much information about the suspect or his motives. President Joe Biden is set to unveil a series of executive orders addressing gun violence. One area he will address is tighter regulations requiring buyers of homemade guns to undergo background checks. He will also nominate David Chipman to be the director of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Chipman is a former federal agent and advisor of gun control to a gun control group. Police have placed roadblocks and fencing around Grace Life Church in Edmonton, Alberta, in an effort to prevent worshipers from accessing the building. This is according to the Post-Millennium. Police, law enforcement officers descended upon the property early Wednesday morning. Grace Life made headlines earlier this year after the church's pastor, James Coates, was jailed for holding in-person worship services amid ongoing pandemic restrictions. As CBN News has reported, after spending a month behind bars for violating the government's capacity mandates, Coates was released from jail back on March 29th. You can find this full story at cbnnews.com. Strong words from China, from Taiwan's foreign minister, who says the island will defend itself, quote, to the very last day if attacked. Some believe a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is imminent. There heard reports on what it could mean for America and the world.
China has ramped up military operations in the Taiwan Strait significantly in recent days, and there are fresh fears of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. China views Taiwan as a renegade province and could be tempted to make a move because, according to some experts, Beijing sees the Biden administration as weak.
But would China actually risk war over Taiwan? And then what would America do?
While China talks tough and has improved its military by stealing technology from the United States, Chinese leaders are keenly aware their military has not fought a major war in 42 years. And when it did in 1979, it lost, in the view of some experts, to Vietnam. But the commander of the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet warned the Senate Armed Services Committee that taking over Taiwan remains China's #1 strategic priority.
My opinion is this problem is much closer to us than most think, and we have to take this on with urgency.
With China's military untested in combat, while America's has been fighting in several nations, some experts say the last thing China wants is a shooting war with the United States. But China's true intentions remain a mystery.
I think it would be very, very dangerous to assume that all of this is just saber rattling. China would certainly prefer to reunify with Taiwan peacefully. what the Chinese leadership has made clear over the last 70 years is they are prepared to use force if it is necessary.
What might help prevent an invasion of Taiwan would be an actual agreement with the United States to defend the island. There is no defense pact between the United States and Taiwan now, but something officials call strategic ambiguity, which means China doesn't know if the U.S. will defend the island or not. It's a strategy that was condemned during a recent online House subcommittee hearing on Taiwan.
Strategic ambiguity relative to Taiwan and China is, in my opinion, absurd and dangerous. We ought to be crystal clear that if China attacks Taiwan, we will be there with Taiwan.
Pentagon simulations show the U.S. losing a war with China over Taiwan, primarily because U.S. bases are so far from the island, and China may have already decided that now is the time to strike. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Coming up, educating Palestinian refugee children and whether they are learning the truth about Israel. We'll explore this story next.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Superbook fans, here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
One of the ongoing problems for any new Israeli government will be the continued hostility from some Palestinians. The United Nations group responsible for overseeing the education of Palestinian refugees recently said it had removed violent and anti-Israel content from school textbooks. CBN's Chris Mitchell takes a closer look at the resolution.
During 2020, Palestinian children, like many others around the world, couldn't go to school due to COVID-19. During that time, United Nations Relief Works Agency, or UNRWA, produced and provided the students material that went way beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic.
We found that it contains various violations of UN values, of UNESCO standards, and of UNRWA's own principles. These were educational materials which were distributed to over 320,000 Palestinian children across the West Bank and Gaza.
Marcus Sheff leads a group that monitors peace and cultural tolerance in schools. It examined the material sent to those children, and what they found was not good.
The idea that UNRWA, a UN organization, is distributing material which calls on students to defend the motherland with blood, or that glorifies terrorists and directs students to terrorists like Dalal Mughrabi, who is in their materials a role model for young girls, somebody who murdered 38 people, including 13 children on a civilian bus.
This impact group report from January lays out examples found throughout the curriculum. In mathematics, students are asked to write the number of martyrs in the First Intifada. A language studies question asks students to find the preposition in a sentence like, "Jihad is one of the doors to paradise." And in social studies, where Zionist policy is blamed for exhausting Palestinian natural resources.
It was written by UNRWA's teachers. Now, UNRWA's teachers are supposed to be trained in UN values of peace and tolerance.
Following the January impact report, UNRWA admitted to the problem and assured governments it had been addressed. A follow-up study by the impact team, however, shows that was not the case.
Within these materials, we also found hateful material which young people anywhere should not be studying, and certainly not being taught by a UN organization. So, I think what we see here is that, UNRWA is absolutely part of the problem in relation to the incitement of young people in the region.
In one social studies exercise, 6th graders are shown a map of the British Mandate called Palestine that does not include any Israel reference, and told Palestine is the geographical area which extends from the Mediterranean Sea in the west to the River Jordan in the east, and from Lebanon and Syria in the north to the Gulf of Aqaba and Egypt in the south. Its location gave it strategic importance, making it coveted by invaders and colonial powers. And there's another problem.
And that is, if you have distributed print materials to 320,000 children, then you found that you had been distributing hateful material. How exactly did UNRWA get those materials back? We have no answer to that.
Former President Trump cut funding to UNRWA because of this kind of incitement in Palestinian schools. President Biden has pledged to resume humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. Chef maintains the world should expect transparency from any United Nations body. And until UNRWA can prove otherwise, it should be understood the organization teaches hate. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Today, Israel marks Holocaust Remembrance Day to mourn the 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust at the hands of the Nazis before and during World War II. A 2-minute siren sounded throughout the country as Israelis stood in silence to remember those last in the darkest chapter in the history of the Jewish people. As Israel faces the prospect of a modern conflict with massive casualties, a nuclear strike from Iran. On Wednesday night at Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared Israel would not be bound by the Iranian nuclear deal.
Also to our best friends, I am saying, let there be no mistake. An agreement with Iran that will pave her way to a nuclear weapon, a weapon that is threatening our destruction. An agreement like that will not bind us in any way. There is only one thing that binds us: prevent those who strive to destroy us to carry out this plot.
The U.S. and Iran began indirect talks in Vienna to renew the Iranian nuclear agreement struck by President Obama in 2015, but ended in 2019 by President Donald Trump. Still ahead, as America looks forward to life after the pandemic, what the church could be like in the future. We'll explore. Stay with us.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. a free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
As the church emerges from this pandemic, it will need to rethink the pros and cons of online ministry and in-person ministry. We spoke with one author and pastor who sees a hybrid model going forward.
And joining us now is Pastor Jay Kim, lead pastor at Westgate Church in the Silicon Valley. He is the author of Analog Church, Why We Need Real People, Places, and Things in the Digital Age. Pastor Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
These, of course, are different times, but I want to ask you first, you have been concerned for a number of years about digital ministry. What kinds of digital ministry have you been concerned about and why?
Yeah, I mean, just the proliferation of digital technology in churches. So just some very quick examples might be, you know, the advent of video teaching models and online services. And concern is probably the right word. I'm not actually positioned against any of those things. I think there's a healthy and helpful way to leverage digital technology. I think my concern has primarily been born out of maybe a sort of recklessness and a misuse and possibly an overuse of some of these technologies and the ways it's affecting our ecclesiology, how we understand what it means to be the church.
And it's so interesting at this particular point in time because, of course, we are hopefully, God willing, emerging out of this pandemic, but so many ministries have been forced to go online, forced to go digital. And I know you've said, hey, this is what we need for right now. But are you concerned, you know, going forward? And what are your hopes for the church coming out of this time as we have relied so heavily on online ministry?
Right. Yeah, actually much less than concern. I'm actually quite encouraged and very hopeful. I think that if the pandemic has revealed anything to us as just human beings, as embodied human beings, it's revealed to us that while digital technologies are extremely helpful, they're lacking. You know, I think we can all relate to things like Zoom fatigue or digital fatigue. And so I'm actually really hopeful that in due time, as people sort of return to in-person, analog, embodied presence, and I know it'll take time, you know, there are lots of different elements at play, but in due time, I'm hopeful that we'll come out of this with a newfound appreciation for the in-person gathered experience. And I think that's going to bode well for us as the church moving forward into the future.
Do you see a place for the both, if you will, for a hybrid model where we are taking the best of digital ministry and combining that with in-person? What does that look like in your view?
That's a great question. I do think that the future is hybrid, meaning I don't think digital technology is going away, nor do I think it should go away completely. It has afforded us a lot in terms of convenience and the opportunities to be able to connect very quickly over, you know, great distances and all of those things. So when it comes to the hybrid future, and I do think it will be a hybrid future, I think that it's critically important that pastors and church leaders create a hierarchy of the hybridity, if you will, that we emphasize that for all for whom it is a possibility. So all who are able to gather in person, and I know that that doesn't apply to some. You know, there are those who who need digital for a variety of reasons, health reasons and otherwise. But for all who are able, I think we need to communicate clearly that the in-person embodied gathering is not an option. It is hierarchically, it is at the top of the priority list. We do all that we can to gather in person as much as we can, and then digital is a sort of peripheral supportive mechanism for those moments and those instances when we can't.
Well, it's interesting because I think all of us hopefully do have that newfound appreciation for in-person, so it will be really interesting to see how the church goes with all this coming out of the pandemic. Pastor Kim, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to CBN.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Two of the stars of A&E's hit Duck Dynasty series are back with a show of their own. It's on social media. It features Commander Willie Robertson and his wife, Corey. It debuted this week on Facebook. Fans of the Robertsons will immediately notice Willie isn't sporting his familiar bandana on his head, and he also cut his hair. The Robertsons say they invite guests on their show to their home for a day of Southern hospitality, good conversations, and outdoor adventures with good humor mixed in. We leave you with this Thursday thankful and hope you will join us in this prayer of gratitude. Father, thank you for the gift of salvation and the gift of intimacy. I love that you love being close to me. I choose now to make room for you. With that prayer, let's all be sure to make this a thankful Thursday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Make it a thankful Thursday. We'll see you back here tomorrow.